We've always been fascinated by those bizarre, amazing worlds our brains cook up at night. But what are they really? Are they secret messages, or is it all just random noise? Well, today we're going to get into the science of your dreams. I mean, it's the one question everybody asks, right? You wake up heart pounding from a dream where you're suddenly back in school, totally unprepared for a huge test. Or maybe you see an old friend you haven't thought about in years. And you just have to wonder, what on earth was that all about? What was my brain trying to tell me? It's this deep, universal curiosity, and let me tell you, science has some pretty fascinating and totally competing answers. Okay, so on one side, you've got the classic view from Sigmund Freud. He famously called dreams the royal road to the unconscious, believing they were packed with these powerful symbols about our secret desires and fears. But then on the other side, you have modern neuroscience, which is kind of like, dreams might just be a biological side effect of your brain sleeping. And that right there is the big debate we're going to unpack. All right, so let's get into the idea that really shook things up. I'm talking completely disrupted dream research. Back in the 1970s, this new theory came along that saw the brain not as some kind of mystic, but more like a storyteller just trying to do its best with whatever random information it gets. It's called the activation synthesis theory, and it proposed something pretty radical for the time, that dreams don't actually have any built-in meaning. Nope. According to this model, they're just a side effect. Basically, your brainstem is just firing off all these random electrical signals, and your cortex, the smart thinking part of your brain, is desperately trying to stitch them all together into some kind of story. So here's the play-by-play. During REM sleep, that's the deep sleep stage, rapid eye movement, where you have your most vivid dreams, your brainstem just goes wild. It's firing off all these random electrical signals. These signals shoot up to the cortex, and the cortex gets this jumbled mess of information and scrambles to make sense of it all. It tries to synthesize it into a story, and that story, that's your dream. So that leads to a pretty wild conclusion, doesn't it? If this theory is right, then all our dreams, even the ones that feel so important or the ones that are absolutely terrifying, they might just be meaningless biological noise, just static. But, a lot of scientists looked at that and thought, that just can't be the whole story. I mean, think about it. If dreams are totally random, why do they so often have a plot, a structure, and why do they almost always seem to be about our real-life worries? Questions like these are what pushed researchers to start looking for a deeper, maybe even an evolutionary, purpose for why we dream. So yeah, some major challenges to that random noise idea started to surface. First off, people argue that our dreams are just way too coherent, way too story-like to be just random junk. Then there's something called the continuity hypothesis, which basically points out the obvious. Our dreams are clearly connected to what's happening in our waking lives. But honestly, the biggest, most compelling challenge came from an evolutionary angle, something called the threat simulation theory. Okay, so this is really cool. The threat simulation theory, or TST for short, basically says that dreaming is a survival tool. It's like this ancient, built-in virtual reality system for your brain. The idea is that every single night, your brain runs these simulations of dangerous or scary situations. Why? So you can practice. You get to rehearse how to spot threats and how to get away from them, all from the safety of your bed. It's like a mental fire drill, and you can see how that would have given our ancestors a huge evolutionary advantage. But that raises a big question. How in the world do you actually test a theory like that? Well, as it turns out, the entire planet was recently thrown into a real-life threat simulation. I'm talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, which gave scientists a really unique and, unfortunate, natural experiment. Think about it. The pandemic created the exact kind of situation where, if TST is right, our dream rehearsal machine should have gone into overdrive. We had this real, ongoing threat in our everyday lives. It was the perfect chance for researchers to see if what happened in our dreams would change to match the threat we were all facing. And you know what? The results were absolutely fascinating. One study compared what people were actually going through during the day with what they were dreaming about at night. The difference was just stark. People's dreams had way more negative social interactions than what they were reporting from their real day-to-day lives. In fact, it wasn't even close. The difference was staggering. Get this, threatening events, stuff like being chased or attacked or having some kind of epic failure, were over 6 times more likely to happen in people's dreams than in their reports from their waking life. It's like our brains were intentionally dialing up the danger level every night. And the findings went even deeper than that. For one, people's dreams had a lot more strangers in them, which suggests our brains were practicing for unpredictable social situations. And here's the really interesting part. It was tied to stress. People who reported less stress during the day had fewer of these weird interactions with strangers in their dreams. It's almost like our brain adjusts its nightly threat practice based on how safe or stressed we feel when we're awake. Okay, so where does that leave us? Are dreams just random brain static, or are they these carefully crafted survival simulations? Well, the latest thinking suggests that maybe we've been asking the wrong question this whole time. Instead of this simple either-or fight, a totally new way of looking at it is emerging. Maybe the real question isn't what are dreams for, but something deeper. Something like, what does our consciousness actually feel like when it's playing by a different set of rules? And here's the big insight. Dreaming isn't some mystical, magical process. It's simply what happens to your consciousness when you unplug it from the real world and turn down the volume on the logic part of your brain. When you're cut off from all the sights and sounds and rules of reality, your emotion and memory systems get to take the wheel. And the wild ride they take you on, that's the dream. So, if there's one big takeaway, it's this. You don't have a waking mind and a separate dreaming mind. You just have one consciousness. It just runs in different modes. By day, it's locked into reality by your senses and by logic. But at night, all those rules get loosened, and it just starts generating its own world based on your memories and emotions. It's the exact same engine. It's just running a different software program. And that leaves us with a really powerful final thought. Whether it's running threat drills or processing the day's emotions or just exploring the weird corners of your own mind, your brain is busy every night rehearsing for your life. So the next time you wake up from a crazy dream, maybe ask yourself, all right, what was my brain getting me ready for last night?